What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Corbin Claypool Show, where we talk about growth, business, finance, and much more. Today I have on a couple of special guests. I got my co-host Ernesto here, who's co-hosting again because he's beast mode, and I got Jason Pritchard on, who everybody knows who's a beast. So we're going to go into this and excited to bring you some value. So Ernesto, if you want to jump in, man, and introduce yourself again to the audience for people that don't know you.
So I'm Ernesto, mortgage loan officer with Apex Mortgage Group here out of Fresno. I'm excited to be here.
Let's go. Jason, what about you, man?
My name's Jason Pritchard. For those of you guys that don't know me, I started investing in real estate full-time end of 2014. I was in corporate America prior to that for about 15 years working in sales and sales management. I hated my life. I hated the trajectory of what I was doing. I hated my job. I'd always been really intrigued by the idea of investing in real estate, and we finally burned the boats and went all in 2014. And since then, we've flipped and wholesaled probably 400 houses. We got a rental portfolio just over 100 units, mainly here in Central California. And I love doing podcasts like this because I think the goal for me, and I'm sure for you guys, is to try to transfer all the things that I've learned, because real estate has been so impactful on my life. Mm-hmm. I want to give as much of it away as I can to free for the people that are listening on the audience, man. So excited for this one today, man.
That's awesome. Thanks for jumping on. So I like to go way, way back, farther than other podcasts. And so I kind of wanted to ask you, who were you in high school, man?
Yeah.
What were you like in high school? Did you ever have ambitions? You mentioned that, real estate was something that interested you. Did you ever think that you would have a ton of properties like this? Like, what was your goal at that time?
It's interesting, man. That's a really good question. So for me, thinking back to the way that I was in high school, I was an athlete, so I played sports growing up. I was had a good friend group, a positive friend group, the same guys that I had kind of grown up with my whole life. Those guys, I come from a really small family, so my friends back then were kind of like my brothers, man. You know what I mean? And I think that we had really good, strong relationships. Most of us had good heads on our shoulders, but like a lot of kids, when you're teenagers, you do a lot of dumb stuff. And I was doing a lot of dumb stuff when I was young. So we were going out, partying, drinking, doing things that we probably weren't supposed to be doing. I was not outwardly ambitious, but I was like one of those kids that was trying to be cool, but secretly I always got really good grades, you know what I mean? And I did kind of that stuff, and I didn't want people to know that I was smart, you know what I mean? And so I kind of had a dichotomy to my personality growing up. And so I went through that through kind of high school, and then I ended up having a son when I was really young, dude. I was like 19 going on 20. So then my son was born, and my life completely changed trajectory.
So you had to grow up really fast.
Really fast, dude. Yeah. Wow. So things changed for me really quick, and I was it was the hardest thing that I had ever dealt with at that time, but it was also the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was not on a good life path, if that makes sense. When I was 19, when my son, was first born, I was doing all the dumb things that we were talking about, but it could very easily turn into, a life of non-productivity and just making bad choices. And that quickly, I think, got me on the right path. Mm-hmm. And I started taking my work really seriously, because I was like, dude, I was making $6.75 an hour. I was making minimum wage at that point in my life. Mm-hmm. And I was just doing the math of what my apartment cost and what my gas cost and like all of these things. And I was like, this is not going to cut it. And so I happened to be in a sales position at that time, and I had like natural personality traits to be good at it. And I got encouraged by managers and just different people that were leaders in that company that I was in to really start taking that serious. I think they saw some potential in me. Mm-hmm. And I started taking it serious, and my income jumped dramatically. And I was like, wow, I'm good at this. And then I started going down kind of like that management track in corporate America. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it started.
What was the sales position that you were?
So I worked for a technology retailer, and we did outside sales. So it was a company called CompUSA, very similar to Best Buy.
Oh,
right?
I remember that. Yeah.
But the department I worked for was an outside sales. So we had offices in the back, and we were all B2B. It was business to business. So we didn't really work with the customers that came in the store. We were on a draw versus commission compensation package. So we had to go out, and we basically took a pin on the map, and any business that needed technology, which is basically every single business that's out there within a 5-mile radius of the store, we were cold calling them, we were door knocking them, we were going there trying to, basically sell them technology products and services. And so that's where I learned my chops doing sales, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What sport did you
I played everything growing up. Basketball is what I was best at and what I stuck with. And so I played ball all through, the end of high school, essentially. And I think athletics for me were really important because it instilled some of the discipline that I think a lot of people are like lacking just in life and in business of showing up every day, practicing, putting in the reps, like honing your craft. There's a lot of overlap between that kind of athletic mentality and I think the things that make people successful in our business, right? Because 100%. I equate it to your practice as like getting on the phone and doing the things that you need to do to get ready to get out before it's game time when you go on your appointments and things like that. With
man. I noticed that with athletes is I feel like we kind of have that edge a little bit just from playing sports our whole life and going through the practices like you're mentioning. It definitely helps. It transitions over into business almost perfect. I feel like business is kind of a sport. It is at the end of the day, and
you got to stay motivated.
You got to stay motivated. You got to stay on top of it. And people are like, people talk about, the NBA or the NFL, right? How easy their life must be to be an NBA or an NFL athlete. But what they don't take into account is 95% of their time are hard ass practices, probably twice a day that they're getting up and they're like, holy shit, we don't want to be here. But they go through that anyways. And I think that, goes over into business perfectly.
It does. I agree 100%, man. I think, and we probably get around a lot of people that were ex-athletes or have that background at some point in their lives. And I think it's balancing the discipline that it takes to be really good and excel at sports. And then also what's worked well for me is learning how to layer in like that competitive nature too, but not letting that competitiveness like overcome and make it like me versus Corbin or me versus, you know what I'm saying? And like being driven, but also learning how to collaborate and play well with others too.
It's easy to do that in this industry.
Because I know some people that are like hyper competitive, right? And they just overdo it. They take that so far to the extreme that I think they burn some bridges in our business. And so I think that there's a very fine line there where being over competitive can hurt you sometimes.
And I think it's the thought process of it has to be like a me versus you type.
Yes.
If in order for me to win, you have to lose.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And one thing that you pointed out at the very beginning when you kind of started your introduction was, I do this because as I grow, I want everybody else to I want to give away that. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot from successful people is like the most successful look at that in abundance, right? If there's plenty for every one of us to continue to grow. And I think that the mindset more so is that there's abundant success, I guess you could say. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, it's good. It's good. I think in business, man, like for me, I like to kick ass. I like to win. I like to be number one. That's probably a downfall for me though too, because like you said, I have probably burned some bridges on the lending side just because I'm not as much anymore. Now I'm more, I've really had to work on myself in that aspect. Because I used to just be cutthroat, like I'm going to win. Right now, I'm realizing there's enough for everybody, and I cannot do all the deals in Fresno, even if I wanted to. Right.
And what I would layer on top of that is that it's very important how you define winning. And so, if your definition of winning is in order for me to win, somebody else has to lose. I think that your ceiling is only so high, right? But if you define winning for me is how do I become the best version of myself and what am I, this was Jason from 2023, what does Jason in 2024 look like, right? And then making that the version that I'm competing against, you're constantly progressing and getting better.
That's good.
And I think that at the lower levels of this business, people compete. As we ascend higher, I've learned that it's more about collaboration. And the most successful people that I'm around are very collaborative and they're very open to sharing and talking. And I think it's something that you have to get to that level to get there. But I think I've gotten way farther collaborating with people than I have competing against them.
And two, I feel like, sorry, Ernesto.
No, I was going to say it. A lot of the things that successful people do, they're easy. They're not hard. But they're hard at the same time, right? They're so simple.
Simple, not easy.
Simple, not easy. There we go. Sorry. That's what I meant to say. So it's just about continuing to stack the wins, right? And it's like you just do these things every single day, but over time that gets hard. Right? And sometimes it's like when you reach your pinnacle of success, you're willing to give that away, but 90% of the people won't actually do it.
It is, and it's the discipline, I think, that we got as from our athletic backgrounds of you have to go to practice, you're going to run these sprints, you're going to do all these things that we don't want to do, but that we choose to do because we know it's going to make us better. That directly translates to business for me, because there's lots of things that we would prefer not to do. Going on calls, making 1,000 calls. You know what I mean? For me, it's a lot of cold calling, right? And so that was like my background growing up in corporate America, and what I coach my students, my team, those types of things on, right? And it's like these things, guys, that you don't really want to do, it's necessary and you have to do it. And it's instilling that discipline allows us to ascend to where we want to go. It's all built off of a foundation of that.
And one thing you point out too is, collaborating, helping others, right? We can get far with ourselves. I mean, you can become a millionaire by yourself, but if you want to become a multi-millionaire, right? And we're talking purely about money right now, you have to be able to empower others. And help them become rich and help them become millionaires, right? Because if you can help other people, especially in like the mortgage organization, if I can help a bunch of loan officers that are working on my branch, working under me, and I can help them succeed, I'm going to win too.
Yep.
So it's like a mutual thing, right? We just got to help others win, and then we win too.
Dude, this is how I visualize what you just said right now. So I feel like as a one man or a one woman army, you have so much potential, right? You can be great and crush in this business just as a solo operator and do that. The next tier requires you to transfer those skills to somebody else and get them to stick, which is a completely different thing.
And it's way harder.
And it's way harder.
It's way harder.
Just because you're good does not mean that you can transfer the skills to somebody and get them good. Then the next tier after that is, can that person transfer those skills to a group of people? And now you've insulated yourself and duplicated yourself, not just from that one-to-one, but then that person one-to-many. And then that's when you get to the level that you're talking about, dude. And so transferring to one person is one thing, getting them to transfer to a group of other people and getting it to stick is another different thing. And it requires us to be different leaders, different types of entrepreneurs, because the version of Corbin or Jason that got us here is not that version. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. And I just think when I got in the industry, I'm like, I want to close this much.
Yeah.
I want to close this many loans. And I got there. But now it's a completely different thinking. I want to do that, but I'm also like, I want to, empower others and figure out how I can help them grow, which is I would have never thought like that. Right.
Yeah.
And like, to your point, it's a completely different skill set. So to think that you can go in there, you're a good producer, you can just go train somebody right away, it doesn't work like that. And I've learned that the hard way. I've learned that it's freaking hard to be able to, give people the motivation, give people the, obviously you can't give them the discipline, but give them the proper leadership in order to grow.
It's also about finding the right people, right? Like you have to find the right person that has the potential. Right. And then you give them the tools and see what they do with those tools.
And so this ties back to what we were saying. If you're overly competitive and you think that everything you're doing is proprietary and it's a secret, you're never going to attract those type of people, because they're just going to, you know what I mean? Like your guard is always going to be up, and you're never going to get the people into your life or your business that are going to be open to receiving these things and then push it out there. So you have to come from a collaborative space and get past that competitiveness that we were talking about to be able to say, like, nothing that I ever learned was a secret. And I know that it's not a secret because I just learned it from watching podcasts and going on YouTube, dude. So it's like, if I could go from zero real estate experience, right, and I could learn this stuff by just educating myself and doing it and then just taking a lot of action, then how secret can any of this stuff be? So for me, my approach has always been, let me just try to help as many people as I can, because there's a part of me that gets fulfillment from seeing other people become successful, but it always leads, that value always comes back full circle. I've always seen it happen, and it's just been proven to me over and over again.
Just the way it works.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you were in sales. Obviously, you were natural. You started doing really, really well. Same with, I would assume, myself, and also, not assume, I know, myself and Corbin, and then you just kind of continue to grow from there. When did you make the transition over to real estate, and how did that start, and how did it kind of grow?
That's a really good question. So for me, what I knew about myself, even when I was younger, is that I always wanted to be successful, whatever you define that as, right? And so for me, when I was younger, I wanted to accumulate wealth. I wanted nicer things. I was intrigued when I was 16 about like having nice cars and all these other stuff, right? And so I always knew that I wanted to do that. For whatever reason, I was drawn and intrigued to the idea of real estate, even when I was like 18, 19. I think somebody put me on Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was like 19. I read it and I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Those are seeds planted.
Yeah. And I think it was a combination of like just being fortunate and being around the right people, me being open to receiving that message and then actually taking it and doing it. So I knew that I wanted to do something. I had a lot of limiting beliefs, you know what I mean, about my ability to like break away from that corporate structure and just do this on my own. So I think what stalled me out from like 20 to 30 was I was making really good money. I was successful. I was in my early 20s making over 6 figures, and like I had a lot of money coming in. Everybody was like, dude, you're crushing it. Everything's going good. And it was hard for me to see myself walking away from that, basically starting at zero to go
and it's a
into
whole
real estate.
Identity change.
It
too,
is,
man. It's
it
like
is,
a whole
dude.
change in everything. Yeah.
And so I spent a long time stuck, and there would be seasons of my life where I would get this idea and like get really intrigued, and I would start going down the rabbit hole of like, what if I did this? And this sounds really cool, and reading different books and doing that. And now with social media, it's even easier. Like you can listen to all these podcasts and really like get intrigued by this idea. But I always came across these limiting beliefs, that voice in your head that kind of talks you out of it, right? And it just says like, you know what, man, you know, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe now's not the right time. You have all of this, like you're risking your job and this, and now you've got a kid at home, and you know, and then that also gets compounded by friends and family members and people that also have their limiting beliefs that they project onto you. And so I stayed stuck for that. Basically all of my 20s I was just stuck there, right? I was kind of in this process where I would just never willing to take the leap. And then I found myself in a position in my early 30s where it was like, all right, this has to happen right now, because if it doesn't happen now, it's probably never going to happen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was 33 when we first started, dude.
And you feel like you had to have that awareness, though, too, right? Because like you mentioned, people push their limiting beliefs onto us or onto people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's because they're not like aware of their own thought process. They're just allowing that programming to run.
Yep.
Right.
I agree.
So before you can make the change, you have to actually become aware that what you're thinking isn't
become
correct.
Conscious of the way that you're thinking.
Become conscious of it so that you can actually make those changes. Right. Because people have put beliefs, values, all this stuff into us as we've grown up, and some of them are good. Some of them hold on to because maybe there's something good with your family or something tight with your family, whatever it is. But then there's negative ones that affect us, man.
Dude, everybody, this is what I tell everybody. Real estate for me is the easy part. It's the fun part, dude. I enjoy real estate. So getting up and doing what we do in our day-to-day for me does not feel like what work used to feel like me when I was in my office or in a cubicle just stuck there all day. So I get to do real estate. The hard part for most people, myself included, is keeping your head screwed on straight every single day and understanding. One, like you said, most people, 99% of people are literally just floating through life on autopilot. They're not intentional about how they think, feel, or act in anything. They just kind of float through life. Mm-hmm. And self-awareness, I think, is step number one. Like actually realizing that you're in control of this story that you're telling yourself every single day. And if you want your life to change, you need to be intentional about starting to tell yourself a different story and not just letting that same reel that's just been clicking on autopilot every day that you go on just automatically go off and just kind of subconsciously going through your life without really doing anything different. So it starts with that. Mm-hmm. So everybody wants to have the result first and then start to change how they think and feel. They will associate themselves as being a millionaire when they see $1 million in their bank account. And what I'm here to tell you is that you have to be a millionaire first mentally, right? Before that $1 million ever manifests in real life. And it will not work any other way, because if you do not believe that you're capable or worthy of having $1 million, you will always self-sabotage. It's just 100%, dude.
That self-sabotage thing is crazy. I will tell you that at the end of 21, I had made more money than I had ever made. And dude, I started getting like a health problem, and I started self-sabotaging because I wasn't ready for it. You know, my family didn't have it, so I had to really.
It is, dude, and it manifests itself in different ways. It's poor business decisions. It's being reckless with our money. It's buying things that we shouldn't buy. It's just getting out. It's that, and that's how it happens, dude. And so, for me, if things happen too quickly, that's when you see things come and go very fast, dude. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like if you don't really do that internal work to build like a really good solid foundation, then that money can come quickly and it can go very quickly.
100%. And that's the thing, because you hear people say like in real estate, they're like, I want to be, in real estate, right? Because it seems like you're self-employed, you have your own business and stuff like that. And it's just like, well, you don't have a time to go in, right? It's when you get started. Mm-hmm. So no one tells you have to clock in at 8 o'clock.
That's it.
No one tells you you're off. You don't have a lunch break. It's when you motivate yourself to do it. And that is the simplest, hardest thing to do. You know what I mean? And you have to go through that time frame of building it.
It is.
Because they see you winning now, but they didn't see the hard, the blood, sweat, and tears that you had to put in to get there. And like that little time frame that, it took for you to get there. And for a while, I mean, and I would assume, because I know it happened to me, that I kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
I tell people I fell into it. I didn't really. I was working for a bank. I got into loans, and I thought that it was like a different portion of the bank, and then I realized what it was, and then I left the bank, and then I lost money.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back boots on the ground and build it, and then once you build a foundation, you can grow from there, but you have to keep it growing.
Let's kind of move this conversation, because to your point, into the current market of where we're at right now. Because you mentioned blood, sweat, and tears, which right now I feel like lenders are feeling the blood, sweat, and tears of doing a lot of work that does not have instantaneous results right now. Back in 21, I was doing the work and I was like, got my check. This is awesome. Now I'm planting all these seeds, growing this branch, and putting in a lot of work that's not necessarily paying off right now. And so to be able to keep that mindset that, hey, this is going to be something that's 2, 3, 4 years down the road is what's going to be the key to any success in real estate, buying properties, but especially the mortgage industry.
My thoughts would be is that, especially if you're newer in the business right now and you have it in you, then you're going to win. If you're not, if you have that, like we're talking about right now, like I put in the reps a long time ago, you put in the reps a long time ago, that now it's time to think like, all right, now it's time to go back to that mindset, because it's not going to be that easy like it was,
dude.
No. But at least you know what it feels like to do that, and you replicate it right now. Those are my thoughts.
Well, I also think that I've become more disciplined in my business than I've ever been. Like my systems are more organized than they've ever been. Like it's given me time to sit back and fix any leaks in my business that I needed to fix, and also just have like my daily success plan lined up. Like I got something that I do in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's getting done. I'm calling my clients. I'm calling my realtors. Before that, it was a lot easier because business was just coming. I had built it up. But now it's like you got to do that extra work. But it's going to be tenfold when it turns around.
And then you level up, right? Like you become, how do I become a better version of me? Right. And like by doing that, now you know that once it gets back to normal, it's going to freaking blow.
There's a lot to unpack. So here's what I'll add. I feel like one of the best things that I've learned to do is delay gratification. And so I'll use how we acquired our rentals as a perfect example of this. So we started in 2014. The first year I maybe flipped 7 or 8 houses. Second year, double that. And then 2016, I was fortunate enough to get connected with other investors that were my age, similar backgrounds, that had started in the business before me, and they were all buy and hold guys. And a couple of guys that were even younger than me that had 30 or 40 properties, to me at that time, which was like mind-blowing, because we were in our mid-30s at that point. And I was like, how does this guy who's 32 have 40 rentals? Like, how is that? I couldn't even like wrap my head around that. And they always encouraged me to buy rentals. And so what I did from like 2016, 2017, 2018 is we ran our flipping company basically at break even, where all we did was flip enough properties to pay for my marketing, pay our bills. I never took any money out of the company, and we bought 50 rentals in 3 years. And like those purchases were like, that's the best financial decision that I think I've ever made in my life, because all of that stuff I bought for like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. It's all worth $300,000 now or more.
That's insane.
So it's like we've got so much equity and so much cash flow because we refinanced, when rates were really good. So our payments are nothing. Rents have gone like this. You know what I mean? And so we're in this position where other people, and I could have very easily flipped all of those houses and made 20, 30, 40, 50 grand on all of those deals. And I'm so glad that my wife and I made this decision collectively to say, nope, we're just going to stay disciplined. We're going to keep our heads down right now. We're going to build this really solid foundation. And now we're in this space where we're not forced to make moves out of desperation. You know what I mean? We can make moves, and some of the things and the plays that we're going to run now, like you said earlier, are not going to give us any ROI for 2 or 3 years. Right. And a lot of people don't have that runway in their business right now, dude. They've got to go make money right now. You know what I mean? And they have 3 to 6 months worth of runway. Whereas for us, our lifestyle has crept up because as we've gotten successful, but we have always balanced that out with what does the cash flow from our investments pay? What do the things, you know what I'm saying? So we've never been like, we've never been reckless with how we've spent, and we've focused on investing in ourselves and in our business a lot at the beginning, and now it's paying huge dividends.
I agree with that. I think the most reckless thing I've bought is that damn Shelby. But
I think it's good, dude. I think, listen, and I'm not like a proponent of, eat ramen for the rest of your life and not do anything, because that also to me sends a signal out that I'm not worthy of living the life that I want to live. So for me, I think it starts with, once you become self-aware, then you need to have clarity on what you're trying to do. And I'm talking about crystal clear clarity on how much money do I want to make? What do I want to look like? What do I want my marriage to be like? What do I want my relationship with my kids to be like? And you have a clear vision of where you're going. Because if we don't know where we're going, any destination where we end up is fine. Because we're basically signaling to the universe that I don't have any idea where I want to go. So wherever you take me is it. But if I know exactly where I want to be in all these areas of my life, then it's much easier to create a plan to get there. And then the discipline of like doing the actions that it takes daily, weekly, and monthly to get there really kick in.
So for somebody working to pick up properties in this market, and it's hard to find, I shouldn't even put that out there, but it's
not hard. There's work that's involved.
Right.
But it's not hard to find it, but you have to definitely understand how to get there. Yeah.
And finding cash flowing properties right now. Would you recommend somebody to buy a property that's maybe it's a little bit negative because of rates right now, if they have another property to cover it, and then refinancing that property when rates come down?
For
rents
most
are gonna
people,
go
I'd
up.
say no. For most people, my first response is no, because if you're brand new and you're forcing a deal, and this is from my own personal experience, like that money that's on the spreadsheet is literally just on a spreadsheet. It's not reality. And reality is you could have 9, 12, 18 months of just regular consistent, and it literally just takes one thing to go wrong. The AC to go out when it's 115 in the summer, and there's no way that you're not replacing that AC, and that's $8,000 out of your pocket right there. So if you are insulated in a way financially where you're making really good income from your regular job or your business, right? You have other assets, you have a lot of cash in the bank, then yes, I think that you can weather some of those things. But most people are not that. So if you're brand new to the business and you're like how I was when I started, like everything had to work at the beginning, I was overly conservative. And I was like, dude, we have to buy this even deeper. We have to make sure that we're, doing everything on the front end, because the way that we bought our properties is we bought them cheap. We front loaded all of the big ticket items, the roof, the AC, the windows, all the things that create these big capital expenditures through your duration of ownership. So then that way, the only real exposure you have is a bad tenant, which is going to happen, or something crazy happens, dude. But like, we can get out in front of a lot of this stuff by buying the properties right. So for me, I think what I was always great at was I focused on how to find good deals. And that's like one of the things that I'm great at is we understand and know how to identify properties that you can buy for 40, 50 cents on the dollar. We've created a business that generates those opportunities for us consistently and predictably. And we just cherry pick the best ones that we want to keep for ourselves. And the other ones we monetize by selling them, flipping them, wholesaling them, that type of stuff. And that's it. Understanding how to control deal flow is what's worked really well for me.
So someone that has a business or is doing something else and is not investing real estate part-time, but has the assets and the resources to buy these properties.
Yep.
You would say that for that person, it's
I'd
still
rather
maybe
see
a
it
good
break
idea.
even. I never like to see negative cash flow, because I think inherently, even if it's stroking a small check every single month, that's not a good feeling, right?
Right.
So I'd rather see it be break even, but in a market, especially like California, where we have lots of historical data showing that the properties are going to appreciate over a 10, 15, 20-year period and beyond. If you're in this for the long haul and you're not just trying to get rich quick, which owning rental properties is not a get rich quick type thing, right? If you're in it for the long haul, especially in a market that's appreciating, especially in a market now where we know that we're in a high interest rate market, that at some point, I think we all feel confident that things will come back down to earth. We can refinance, and maybe that refinance triggers positive cash flow. Then yes, if you can weather the next 2 or 3 years or however long it's going to take to get there, I think that that's okay, because that money, dude, if you're like me, even me, I'm very disciplined. If that money's just sitting there, it's going to get spent on something, dude. It's going to get spent on a Shelby. It's going to get spent on a trip. I'm going to go buy a watch. I'm going to go buy something, dude. You know what I mean? And so I built the muscle of when we started getting lots of excess cash, I was like, let's just put it into property. And so I was just like, nope, let's just go. Let's buy something. Let's put it into property. And when it's there in that property, I feel really good about that. And that's where 90% of our investments are.
No, that's a great point.
So how do you decide which ones you're going to keep and which ones you're going to resell? Or
at the beginning, we kept everything. So like those first 50 that we bought, it was mainly single family houses and some small multifamilies, some duplexes and some fourplexes and stuff like that. But it was just a bunch of houses, and it was if I could make so here was my criteria. Okay. You brought up the BRRRR model, and we scaled all of our properties doing BRRRR. So we had to be able to buy the property, fix it up, rent it out, and at the minimum, refinance all of my money back out, or all of my hard money lenders or my private money lenders. I was always leveraging somebody else's money for the initial acquisition, right? So if I could make the BRRRR method work and not keep any money in the property, and after accounting for all income and expenses, we had a minimum of $300 a month in cash flow per door, then I would keep it. I didn't care about the area. I didn't care about the neighborhood. I didn't care whether it was a 2-bed, 1-bath. If it was whatever, I didn't care if it was the worst part of town. It's like, if I could do that, then it would work. And then I just learned over time that there's just some property types, some areas, some, grades of neighborhood where, just for me personally, I don't have the appetite to deal with that stuff. When I was young and hungry, I like to go over there. I like to drive my car up, look at all this stuff, like be in the mix of like all the things that are going on. Mm-hmm. And now it's just exhausting for me, dude. And so now it's like, I don't really want to deal with that. So the other good thing about accumulating all the assets that we've had is that they've appreciated a ton, and we've sold 4 rentals this year, 5 rentals, and made $500,000 just from selling those, dude. You know what I'm saying? And like that's literally so sometimes I think we think that we're going to keep some of these properties forever. And some of these were ones that I just bought dirt cheap. I inherited the tenants. We never did any major work to them. And some of them, the tenants were just leaving, and I was like, I don't want to go fix this up and then refinance in the interest rate environment that we're in now. Let's just recapture that equity, because I feel like there's better places that I can make it work now. And then that's what we're doing. And so that goes back to what I was saying. For us to be able to, from the sale of 5 properties, generate $500,000, right? That gives me this breathing room and this runway where other people that don't have access to that all they did was flip and wholesale. And now flipping and wholesaling is much difficult. Flipping, especially at volume, is much more difficult in a market where you're shooting at a target that's going down.
So have you noticed that
100%,
flipping? Okay,
dude.
so let's talk about that a little bit in the market side as far as flipping and wholesaling. You've seen prices come down, or what have you seen?
So like, we're August of 23 is when we're recording this right now. So let's go back a year, okay? Everything that I bought last year, let's call it March, April, May of 2022, right? That was as rates were starting to creep up. And at that time, nobody knew how fast and how high we were going to go. No. So we knew it was going to go up, but I didn't know it was going to go from 3 to 7 in like 6 months, right? And so think about the life cycle of a typical flip is 6 months, dude. You know what I mean? We're buying it in March, April, May. By the time we're done with some of these projects, it's now September, October, November. November is already the worst time of the year to bring product to the market, right? And we have an interest rate environment where it's doubled. Everybody's got sticker shock, right? And so we came into the year and took some major haircuts on some of our projects, dude. I had multiple projects where we lost $30,000, $40,000. And so that's, again, talking about having the access to like the capital and these other assets that you need to be able to weather some of those things. It was not... beginning of the year was tough. A lot of people got smacked around, dude, and myself included.
No, 100%. And Jeremy and I were talking about that in the last podcast. You know, we did deals for free, literally, because we were banking on the rates, staying at least close to where they were, and they went up 1%. And what do you tell the client? Oh, well, now your rate's 1.5% higher or whatever. No, you end up eating that cost.
But you're so smart, dude, to do that, and that's why you will last. And other people that will go back to the client and be like, sorry, guys, I'm not getting paid on this, so your rate is going up because I need to get a whatever on this. You know what I'm saying? The client's never going to go back to them, dude. Yep. Never. They're done. That bridge is burned. And so you guys were smart enough to see that I'm going to either take a loss or just break even on this deal because I know, and I don't even got to go tell the client I'm losing money. I'm just going to service them like nothing ever happened. That client will come back to you the next time they need it. They'll refer stuff to you. And so people are willing to burn that bridge over a few $1,000s on one transaction. No, it's like mind-boggling.
It's crazy, man. The realtor relationships are everything to us, right? At the end of the day. So it's like we got to take care of our business partners, and that's just what it is. And that's the cost of doing business sometimes. You know? Yeah. So, it's good. Do you have anything to add?
No. I was just saying like that right there. It kind of was it's a small form of delayed gratification, right?
Right.
You're looking at things long term. It's like putting in the reps right now, knowing that it's going to pay off in the future.
Dude, this is the thing. Whether you're in the lending industry, you're a realtor, you're an investor, if you can make it right now, and you can not even just make it, but I'm not interested in just getting by. I'm interested in thriving, dude. So if you can thrive right now, imagine what happens when the market turns back around and it's easier to do this, dude. Like, we're going to be so far out ahead of everybody else that we just have gobbled up all of this additional market share because we're making sure our business is built to last in the toughest season, right? So when things become easy again, dude, it's just going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. So this type of stuff excites me. And it's the story that you tell yourself, because we could very easily tell ourselves a story that's like, oh, woe is me, like this is hard. And, we used to be able to do these deals. Now this marketing's not working and now that's not working. Or we could tell ourselves the story that I just got done telling right now. And both of those stories are going to be true. That's it. So whether I tell myself an uplifting, powerful message or whether I bring one that's limiting, that will become my reality. And I think it's very hard for people to grasp that concept early on because they have no proof that that's how things work. For me, it's been proven to me over and over again that when I tell myself something, then it happens. So I don't need any more proof. So even in the face of like none of this stuff making sense, I already know that if this is the story that I tell myself, this is what's going to happen. And that's it. And so then you live in that and you breathe in that every day. And that's how the manifestation process for me happens much quicker. Sometimes you see, it's like, how are these guys doing? How does this person do this? They just seem so easy. And it's because they've built that self-confidence and that inner strength and belief up to a point where they say something and then it happens, dude.
No, and it was hard at the beginning when things were, changing right at the beginning, but we're a year or more into this now. So if you're still complaining about the market, you need to get your shit together. Just get out because, dude, this is how it is.
And I can't be around negative people. I can't be around people that complain. I'm not in a recession, dude. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like I elect and opt to not be in a recession. Feel like my business, I think, is going to hit all the numbers and the targets that we set out for ourselves, even with the losses that we talked about at the beginning of the year. And all of it has to do with mindset right now. All of it 100%. Does. Yeah.
So what are some of the practices that you do to continue with that mindset? Like, is there like a certain,
I think that I'm the type of person that definitely structures off of routine. And so for me, I thrive off of structure and routine is what I meant to say. And so for me, I like to have like dedicated times when I get up. I have time where I pour into myself in the morning, and I have my morning routine looks like getting up. I have a journaling exercise. I have a visualization exercise. I have a goal setting exercise. And that's for me kind of how I start my day. And then I work out. And I'm a big believer in you can't pour into other people if your cup is empty. So if you don't focus, and it's not selfish to do that. So if you're not focusing on filling your cup every day, how are you going to have anything left over to pour into not even just your business, but your wife, your kids, your family, all these other people that need you in your life? So I don't think it's selfish to focus on you at the beginning of the day, make sure that you're set. And I like to do that the first couple hours, and then my day typically starts like around 9, and then I go from regular work hours there.
See, and I love that because it's like that again, because that's kind of the routine that I'm implementing right now too, and I'm continuing to stay on it. That it's so simple, right? Like you get up in the morning, you do some journaling, you do some mindfulness, thoughts, visualization, things like that to get going, then get your workout in, and then get the day going. And I remember the first little while that I started doing that, I was like, dang, this is so easy. If I keep doing this for a long time, this is going to take me places. But then reality sets in.
It's it, yeah.
And that's where the discipline, that's where the building that positive habit comes in. And if you can keep that going and you build that muscle, then it'll work.
And Wes Watson told me something one time. I still think about is you just have to get your 80% above what everybody else is. And that's not to compare. He's just saying what everybody else's 100% is. Basically, he's just saying you just have to raise that baseline discipline that even when you're falling, dude, you're getting back on. Like your discipline, my discipline. When people look at us, they're like, holy shit, they're so disciplined. I look at myself sometimes and go, man, I messed up. Like,
I
have
that same problem too, dude.
I didn't wake up on time or whatever it is. So it's just like raising that baseline higher and higher and higher.
And just being conscious of it. Being conscious of it. Look at yourself from a third person perspective and say, hey, if you can see yourself either not doing it or doing it, right? That's positive. Then you're aware that it's happening. And when you're aware that it's happening, I think that's the first step. But yeah, that's great to hear though, because it does, it's those things that people read in books and you try it for a couple of days and you don't build that muscle. It's like going to the gym one time and saying, hey, I'm going to go work out for 3 hours, and you're not going to walk out, buff. Right. Yeah, or if you work out for an entire year every single day, well, at the end of the year, you will get buff. Yeah. Right. But if you stop working out, it's going to go away.
Yeah. The analogy that I always use to explain this is it's not like self-improvement is not like a light switch where you go into a dark room, flip a switch, and then all of a sudden it's like clear and I can see everything. It's like a dimmer switch that goes up like 1% every single day. So it just ticks a little bit. So if you do this and you do it for 100 days in a row, you'll be in this dark room and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can see, right? And then you open the door and then you're in another, and you do that process over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And so it is really just this slow and steady thing. It's nothing that happens overnight. And it goes back with delayed gratification it seems like a theme of this conversation. It's like, if you can learn to push that gratification out, it will happen. And it's not a secret because every successful person that we know of, that we listen to on podcasts, Ed Milet, Shaq, Oprah, The Rock, insert whoever you want in there, right? They're all going to tell you some variation of exactly what we're doing. So nothing that we're doing is like secret sauce for like Jason or Corbin or Ernesto. It's like all of the stuff that we're just modeling other successful people. And I found myself like early on when I was transitioning thinking like, nothing in my life is where I want it to be. So maybe my thought process is not, let me just adopt something else, because what I'm doing obviously is not getting me to where I want to go. And 100%. So just model what other people are doing and stick with it and have the discipline to see it all the way through.
I like that. Model what other people are doing. Model somebody that you look up to is doing, I read that somewhere, and it's huge. Right. And then, constantly keep improving. So let's finish this up. Does anybody want to add any last things or?
No. I mean, I know that we discussed kind of some of the stuff that you were doing. I mean, like I said, we'd be here all day if we can just go.
We have to do another one of these, dude.
A million questions. Like it happened super fast.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you've gotten a lot of success. You're going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
What's next, right? Like what's like moving forward in your business, or what do you got going? Like what's that?
That's a good question. So for me, I really do try to take a business, financial, health, personal life, family life. I think if you look at it as a spokes on a wheel, right? Business and finances are just like two of all of these spokes that make us like a fully well-rounded, comprehensive person, right? And so for me, I'm always just trying to, for whatever reason, I'm very obsessed with like, what does the version of Jason that has no limiting beliefs, that operates with no brakes, no regulators, what can I accomplish in this time that we have here on Earth? And so when we look at it like that, there isn't really like an end game, because I really feel like from a business standpoint, like you have at the very peak of the mountain, like the Bezos and Elon Musk, and we're a long way away from that, dude. So that means we've got a lot of room to grow. And so I'm not saying that I aspire to do that stuff. I aspire to just be and figure out how to unlock the best version of myself. And that's it.
I love that. I feel like I heard it in my head before you said it.
Yeah, dude. And so for me, that's what that is. And so like we have some ideas and some goals for what like the next 12 months look like. We have ideas and goals for what the next 3 to 5 years look like. And then we have ideas and goals for what the next 5 to 10 years look like. And I speak very clearly and openly about that with everybody that I talk to, with myself internally, with my wife, with the closest members of my team, with the entire company. And I think our job as visionaries is to cast a really big vision that's big and wide enough for all the people that want to go on this ride with us to fit their dreams and goals and aspirations into. And so for me, that's it, man. I think I really enjoy, and I really feel like my life inherently changed from when I found real estate, and now I'm actually living what I would consider my dream life. Like I have never been in a point where I can tell you that I'm happier, more fulfilled, feel more accomplished than I do like right now in this moment. And that's not just business, but my marriage is thriving. My relationships with my kids is in the best places it's ever been. Like financially, I'm doing the best that I ever can. Like I just feel like in this really good place. Awesome. Yeah. So I want to stay there and figure out how to kind of stay in this place that I'm in right now while kind of continuously progressing and growing, man. And
awesome.
That's not, I'm not competing against anybody else. I'm not doing, you know what I mean? This is just me versus me, man. So,
and I want to leave one thing with everybody here is Jason's been giving back to people. I know that you have a coaching program now. Where can they find you, man?
So the easiest place to find me is just my website. If you go to jasonpritchard.com, there's tons of free resources that you guys can have. Like for me, I really bootstrapped everything at the beginning legitimately because I didn't really have any money, and everything on our site is completely free. We have a 10-page guide on how to get started step by step on how we run our business every day. We've got all the core documents and tools and resources that you need, contracts, assignment agreements, the deal analyzers, like the stuff that we actually use every day in our business that you can go download for free. And if you need additional help, if you need accountability, if you need help with implementation, then my team and I are here to help you guys do that. So if you have questions about that, just reach out. And
I'm going to get on that website.
That's a prime example that the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah,
and
that's it, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
I love that, dude. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys for having me.
We got to do it again.
Yeah,
this goes by so fast. Whenever it's just easy to talk, man. I can just do this all day.
Next one for sure, dude. I'm down. I think we have to do one where we talk a lot about like deals in the market, because I know people are looking for information about that too. And I think right now, especially if you can get good at carving out your niche and your lane in the market that we're in now, because what's working now, and I'm sure this is true of your guys' business, the things that were working before are not working now, right? So we're constantly adapting and changing, and we're on the cutting edge of that type of stuff. So I'm big on mindset, and I think everything is built off the foundation of that. But we also need like tactical things that like, what are we doing in the business right now? Like what is actually working right now? You know what I mean? And what can I do? And how do I execute those things, man? So I'm ready. I'm ready for part 2, dude, when you guys are ready, man.
All right. Sounds good, dude. This is awesome.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Thank you guys for sure, man.
Thank you.